Welcome to this brand new live premiere. And as you can see, it's two different characters, or maybe three. But in the world of Garfield, Odie is usually around Garfield. And this is something different, yet another crossover for this series. I wanted to bring together two new shows for this, and if you guys like this crossover, let me know some of the crossovers that you would like to see happen. I'm not sure how long this is going to be. I did try my hand with Jenny Wakeman and Danny Phantom for a what if scenario. I'm not sure if this could be a video game. I'm not sure if it could be a TV series. I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't even mind just having it any way, if it's a TV show or a game, a video game. It's just like nobody's talking about these kind of videos and putting these kind of ideas together. So I wanted to do something different for you guys, and also something that I had a lot of fun with, just with Jenny Wakeman and Danny Phantom, was something that a lot of people wanted to see happen, but I haven't seen anyone make any sort of storyline of how it could work, a storyline of how these characters can be able to meet each other. And today is all about SpongeBob and Garfield for this what if scenario, for this new Nickelodeon crossover. I definitely want to do more of these. I like being unique and just putting myself to the challenge and putting different series together outside of just playing the games. As much as I enjoy streaming the games and more, I like creating movesets for the characters and talking about what the developers could do and what they could do for the future. I like thinking about the future, about what else they can do to better these products, to better the games, to bring more people into these games and keep on playing the games and getting excited and keep the fans engaged and tuned in, which is why I wanted to start something different outside of just playing the games all the time. And I also enjoy doing the character interactions. That's something else that I like, and that's why I came up with this crossover series for this channel, for something different, and it's only for Nickelodeon shows. And I think this will be something that people will like to see. And the one thing before I get started, and the timestamps are going to be included for this video if you guys want to listen in, you can stay for the live premiere if you want and just hang out and chit chat of how you think this could work. Maybe you'll want a video game and they could probably expand and add other characters. I'll talk about that going towards the end of the video and more, just some things that they could possibly do if they made this some kind of type of video game for people to play and have access to play on all platforms. And they could probably do something different with newer characters and keep on adding updates as time goes on to keep on building the game. And it has consistent updates, communication, and so much more that we can be able to stay tuned for. But this is something that I think it has the highest chance of being able to be brought, something that could be turned into something real. I wanted to say something that's realistic, not something that's made up. This is something that can truly, genuinely happen with SpongeBob being able to meet Garfield, because Nickelodeon owns Garfield. And if anyone knows if any sort of additional things that came out in regards to, how this happened, I don't know how Garfield became a Nickelodeon character. I don't know the full story. I don't know the history. I only found out about Garfield being a part of Nickelodeon when he got into Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl from the first game, and then he made his return into the second game, into the sequel that we already have. And then we also had him in the Nickelodeon Kart Racer series as a playable character. I don't think he was in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 1 or 2, but he was a new racer and a new playable character in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3. So that's how I think I started to really notice how he started really getting involved in these crossover titles, from racing games and platform fighters and so on and so forth. He even has his own video games, Garfield Lasagna Party, that I haven't played, but I did play Garfield Go-Kart Racing. I think it was Garfield Kart Racing that I play. I have a playlist of that I streamed. So that was a PS4 game. So I had fun playing that, but I just never experienced any other Garfield game that they came out with from the past. But for this particular video, I just think that this will probably most likely be a TV series. And since Nickelodeon doesn't have to worry about jumping over hoops, they don't have to worry about getting in contact with certain people, running to Disney and running to Nelvana and all these other companies and things like that. It's just too much stuff that goes on with certain characters to get access to the characters, getting the permission and negotiation, it takes time. It's not going to be something that can happen overnight. It takes time, and they have to settle a deal and come to agreement, some kind of agreement to bring these games and bring these characters together. So I wonder how that happened with Jimmy and Timmy. I wonder how long that took. But we haven't had some of that kind of stuff in a while. We haven't had these kind of crossovers. It's been so long. And this is just something that I would like to see. It's part of my little wish list, but it's just something that I brought together. I came up with my own storyline. We're going to get into that in just a little bit. So, and you guys can share your opinions of how you think it could work. Maybe with the storyline, and maybe SpongeBob can visit Garfield. But for this, as you can see from the design, I see Garfield being the one to come and run into SpongeBob and being able to explore his world and be able to get to know his friends and be a part of Bikini Bottom as the newcomer or the new face for Bikini Bottom. That's from the other side, or from the world above surface, because it's not often that SpongeBob really goes above surface. I've seen it in the movies, and maybe some people could correct me. How often has SpongeBob been able to see the outside world? You know what I mean? Outside of Bikini Bottom. It doesn't happen often. So I think this is something that will work, and Garfield and Odie can be able to visit Bikini Bottom, and it'll be awesome to see this happen for a crossover for this brand new series. It's so many other characters that could be able to meet these other characters. Maybe some other characters that y'all think will also be able to meet SpongeBob, Garfield, and so on and so forth that y'all can name, and it'll help me get ideas as well. But this is something that I came up with by myself just to continue to try something different to spice up this series, and I plan to do more characters in the mix-up. So the one thing I wonder is, I wonder why they stopped doing these crossovers with the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. It stopped, and then they don't do it as often. And I don't even know the most recent crossover that they had with Nickelodeon characters being able to cross over into these worlds outside of a video game. So I'm not sure how long that was. But let's start talking about how I think this could work. And for this storyline, I wanted to make it flow and make it make sense. I didn't want to rush this out. That's why I took a little bit of some time to try to just proofread everything and just make sure everything flows and makes sense. And I didn't want to oversaturate it just like I did with Ginny and Danny Phantom with all those different villains. This time around, I wanted to do something a little bit different. But I still think all those other characters from Ginny and Danny Phantom's world can be able to cross over and be able to work together. It would be pretty cool to see that as an action-packed sort of crossover. And this one is going to be a little bit different and not so action-packed, but it's going to be a lot of fun seeing these characters being able to hang out and get to know each other. So let's get into the storyline and try to just flow right through it. And what I came up with from this storyline is also going to be in the description for you guys to be able to click on and just read through if you want to. And you don't have to stay and listen in if you don't want to. You can even critique it and let me know what else you would want to see, or what you would change from my storyline, or what you would add, and maybe you would probably add other characters that can get involved into this crossover. So let's just start with the beginning with this storyline. Jon Arbuckle is also going to be just a little part of this story just to start with this. So Jon Arbuckle can take Garfield and Odie on summer vacation. So they're on vacation. Jon Arbuckle decides to just get out and get away for a little while and take Garfield and Odie on vacation for a nice summer day, a nice trip onto the beach that's full of people soaking in the sunshine. So you know how it's during the summer days, everybody's out on the beach and it gets crowded, things like that. Everybody's out hanging out, catching waves, building sandcastles, playing volleyball and things like that, water sports and things like that. Jon Arbuckle is going to be able to be a part of this summer vacation to relax and try to get Garfield and Odie out to explore the world a little bit more. So just with my whole story, just to keep this rolling, Jon Arbuckle also booked a hotel room in advance for a few days to stay in, almost like a staycation in a way. But Meanwhile, this beach is going to be crowded, and knowing Jon Arbuckle, I thought this would be unique. Just getting to know Jon Arbuckle as a character, he's easily distracted. He's always usually distracted from the women. So I just wanted to make this be silly and flow with his character and how distracted he gets and how nervous he gets and things like that. He changes into a different person when he's around the ladies. So I thought, so meanwhile, the beach is very crowded, and knowing Jon Arbuckle, he's going to get distracted easily by the women there. But all of a sudden, he's going to spot Liz, who's also from Garfield's world, who he has a crush on. He's going to spot Liz at the same exact beach, taking time off alone from working as a veterinarian. So she just so happens to, it's like a coincidence in the perfect timing for Jon Arbuckle. So Jon Arbuckle is going to quickly be able to forget about Garfield and Odie by wandering off to catch up with Liz and try to hang out with her. So, and he's already got, before he even spots Liz, he's already going to be starstruck from all the ladies that's on the beach. Just how his character is. It matches his persona and his personality. He always starts acting up. He'll make mistakes and stuff like that. So I think this will be something that can really cause Jon Arbuckle to get separated from Garfield and Odie, and he will no longer be paying attention to Garfield and Odie. He's going to be distracted, especially when he sees Liz at the same beach hanging out during his summer vacation. So there goes Jon Arbuckle. Nice little short, little minor appearance for this storyline. So that's what I wanted to do with him. So Garfield, meanwhile, since they already noticed, Garfield already knows that Jon Arbuckle got that look in his face where he's just starstruck about seeing Liz and wanting to go over there and check on her and see how she's doing and try to hang out with her. So Garfield and Odie they eventually get bored and they decide to play in the water where the party is at. So everybody's hanging out in the water. There's tons of people on the beach. It's crowded, and they want to find something to do. They just don't want to just be sitting on the beach all day. They want to get into some activity. They want to have fun. So they decide to go into the water and play and hang out where the party is at, so where the crowd is. So just to flow with the story a little bit more, they eventually get caught up into a giant water fight separating from one another. So Garfield and Odie are just completely lost because they get so sucked into the water party and things like that. A whole giant water fight breaks out, and it causes them to lose track of each other for this storyline. So Garfield can't find Odie, and Odie can't find Garfield, and they're just looking around, and there's so many people, and it starts getting bigger and bigger because everybody's up in the pool or up in the ocean, playing and getting involved into the water fight, throwing water balloons and things like that, and just lashing out at each other in the water. So they cannot find each other. This is how I think they can just get separated, and how this storyline can flow, and how they can end up in Bikini Bottom. So we're just going to keep it going. So Garfield gets concerned about Odie and cannot find him, only to find out he's nowhere to be found in the water, with so many people in the ocean, and just everybody just hanging out, and the whole party is getting bigger. It's getting more crowded. It's hard to really, when you're at a party, you cannot find everybody. It's hard to really try to stay together and stick together when there's so many people in the same location just crowding it up. So the population is getting bigger as the day goes on, and they're hanging out in the water. So Garfield basically loses Odie, and he cannot find him. So this was the best way I could really come up with as far as a storyline of how this could be the leading point to how they could end up finding their way into Bikini Bottom. So we're going to keep this going. So with no sign of Odie, Garfield decides to take a huge risk and dive underwater to try to see if he's sunk down under the deep blue sea, because he cannot find him, because there's a ton of people in the pool, in the water, in the ocean, things like that. Maybe he ended up getting lost and he found his way under the water and he's drowning. So Garfield's afraid that Odie is a goner, so without hesitation, he holds his breath for as long as he can to try to quickly try to find Odie and search for him. So on Odie's end, we're going to get into his little part, his half of the story too. Odie is in trouble, and he is underwater, and he can't breathe, and he's struggling to swim to try to get back into the surface. So he's sinking. So Odie is basically sunk, and Garfield's not going to be able to track him yet. So Odie is sunk. He finds his way all the way down to the bottom of the sea, and Odie suddenly hears laughing as SpongeBob is making his way to Jellyfish Fields to go jellyfishing, but he finds SpongeBob discovers Odie in trouble and he's drowning. Odie cannot breathe underwater. And I did a little bit of research. I was just trying to make this make sense. I referenced the Bubble Buddy episode in the Bubble Stand episode where SpongeBob created Bubble Buddy, but before then he had all kinds of talent of bubble blowing. So I thought he could rescue and save Odie by blowing an air bubble, as you guys can see from the design itself, from the screen, from the thumbnail. When you guys see this is gonna be the bubble that SpongeBob creates to save Odie, so he can be able to breathe and regain his oxygen to save his life. He saves Odie. SpongeBob stops what he's doing and cancels his plans of trying to go jellyfishing on his day off because he's not at the Krusty Krab. You know what I mean? So he's going to take the time to try to rescue Odie. It's a dog that's in trouble. SpongeBob is just that kind of person. He's going to be willing to help anyone in need. So that's how I came up with this as a little bit of a reference. He's going to be able to find Odie and be able to, since he has a talent for creating Bubble Buddy, you see he created his own imaginary best friend. He's going to be able to obviously be able to create an air bubble for Odie so he can breathe and save his life. So SpongeBob has been known to understand what his pet Gary says. So I thought with his encounter with Odie, we're going to get to Garfield soon. SpongeBob has been known to understand what his pet Gary says in the show when y'all watch it. You know, when Gary just meows all the time, he can still understand Gary. So he will be able to read Odie and understand what he's saying. So I think this will work. I'm gonna try to I gotta adjust my microphone real quick. I hope everybody can still hear me so I won't have to start over. But just going back to his encounter with Gary, he's known to he's gonna possibly be able to understand and learn what Odie is trying to say because he can read his own pet, Gary the Snail. So I thought this could eventually tie into SpongeBob becoming friends with Odie. So we're going to go back to Garfield's side of things. So Odie meets SpongeBob, and SpongeBob basically has Odie saved, and he saved his life, and he's been rescued. So we're going to get into more, but let's go back to Garfield's side. So Garfield continues his search for Odie, but still cannot find him, and he begins to sink further because he's starting to run out of air. Garfield doesn't have much time. He doesn't have much time left until he drowns. So, but from a distance, while he's trying to swim deeper down into the ocean, from a distance, Garfield can see a yellow square shaped person. He has trouble making out the image, of course, but from a distance, he can see someone that's a yellow square shaped person or a yellow square shaped object just standing still, and another from what seems to look like Odie hanging out with whoever it may be. So Garfield's getting close to drowning, and he's gonna be in trouble, just like Odie. And then Odie will be able to sense Garfield's presence near, and with his new friend SpongeBob, he can guide him to Garfield's location. He can guide SpongeBob towards Garfield, And just as another scenario, if they want to write it that way and create it, this is just my own little idea. Odie will be able to guide SpongeBob to Garfield's location and rescue him, or SpongeBob could be able to spot Garfield as well. It's just in trouble, just like he just was able to discover Odie drowning. SpongeBob could be able to spot Garfield as the first orange cat that he's ever seen in his life. He's never seen an orange cat before, so he's gonna be able to pick up on him and see that Garfield's in trouble. So SpongeBob can quickly run with Odie to try to save Garfield from drowning. See what I'm saying? This is just the closest thing that I could definitely come up with to how SpongeBob can be able to encounter these characters and he can be able to save them. Because they don't even know where they are. They don't even know that they're part of the world of Bikini Bottom. So this is the encounter. Just to try to have everything keep on flowing. Hopefully everybody's still here. SpongeBob meets Garfield and Odie. So this is how we're going to get into everything that's what's going to happen, what they could do for this special series. SpongeBob can be able to find out more about where Garfield and Odie are from, because he's going to obviously know that they're not from Bikini Bottom. They're from the world above surface. And I think that this connection will be a great one to see build between these characters for SpongeBob and Garfield. And it's the first ever talking cat that SpongeBob could be able to visually see in the world of Bikini Bottom. It's a first. It's going to be something new for his friends and all the other sea creatures of Bikini Bottom. The first ever talking cat that SpongeBob could be able to see. Both Garfield and Odie are from above surface, just like Sandy is. So maybe they like to find out more about Bikini Bottom from SpongeBob's own tour. So I thought SpongeBob could give Garfield and Odie a nice little tour of Bikini Bottom, of what it's like to live underwater, life underwater, life in the world of Bikini Bottom. I thought this would be something that could flow. What life is like in the world of SpongeBob's world, and he can introduce Garfield and Odie to some of his friends. So the possibility of them meeting SpongeBob, and for this what if scenario, SpongeBob's gonna be able to meet, well, not SpongeBob, but Garfield and Odie's gonna be able to meet SpongeBob's best friend Patrick, his own pet Gary the Snail, who I think would like Odie and get along well with Odie. Because Odie's just so nice and just welcoming, things like that. And just characters like SpongeBob, you see this, characters like SpongeBob is so nice and generous. He's welcoming. He's open to new friends. He's just kind-hearted and just very generous. And he will definitely welcome Garfield and Odie to the world of Bikini Bottom, because it's just like that for his personality. And Sandy would be also amazing too, because she will be able to know that Garfield is from the above surface just like she is, but obviously Garfield's not from Texas. Garfield and Odie are not from Texas, but they're gonna have something in common, because they're not from Bikini Bottom. They don't reside in that area. They're from above the surface just like Sandy is. So I thought this could be something that could work. And something else that I threw into here, just for a little bit of something different, even his neighbor Squidward, I think would probably have it. I'll just say it's a slight chance. Squidward would probably have a slight chance of being able to get along with Squidward. But Squidward is he's just dismissive, and he just doesn't want to be bothered. So I'm not sure if he will probably get along with Garfield. Maybe they'll probably end up vibing. I'm not sure. But considering how Squidward, of how he acts, maybe he'll find Garfield less annoying compared to SpongeBob. It's just a little bit of a scenario that I put together for this little idea. But then again, I'm thinking Squidward is just he wouldn't even want to talk to Garfield. He just would probably want to be left alone. He's dismissive. Squidward is just always dismissive towards everyone that he comes across, and he just doesn't want to be unbothered. He just wants to be unbothered. So just some other things that I threw in here. So it's just like, well, that's it for the story. I want to just bring in some more things, some activities that Garfield and Odie can be able to get into. Some activities for SpongeBob to introduce for or introduced to Garfield and Odie. And just I had a list here too for some of you guys to read on. Jellyfishing, which was SpongeBob's original plan. He was gonna go jellyfishing, but maybe they'll have fun being able to jellyfish and see what it's like. See what jellyfishing is like. It's all the different types of activities that can be, just all the things that you can do in Bikini Bottom. Jellyfishing. They could go to the Goo. SpongeBob can bring them to the Goo Lagoon for beach fun under the water. I think they would definitely like Goo Lagoon. And I'll just name one particular place I think they will. I'm going to get into very soon. Especially Garfield and Odie. I think they'll really like a particular place. Goo Lagoon will be fun for them. Sand mountain surfing as an idea. Glove World, which is basically the amusement part in SpongeBob's TV show or Bikini Bottom, Glove World. And then last but not least, the Krusty Krab. I think this will be the #1 spot for Odie and Garfield because Garfield loves to eat. He would definitely imagine Garfield trying a Krabby Patty for the first time. I think he'll definitely enjoy those. The Krusty Krab would definitely be the #1 spot. I think SpongeBob would feel like Garfield and Odie would want because they will probably be hungry. He'll want to introduce them to Krabby Patties and try them out for the first time. Garfield will be a huge fan of Krabby Patties, I feel like, to be honest. Maybe he would even like SpongeBob to make and whip up some Krabby Patties for them to try out. And maybe they can take some home. You see what I'm talking about? So they can just do all this different stuff for this story to make this story work for an idea. We're going to get ready to wrap up too. This is just some of the ideas. Those are just some of the places that I named that he could be able to bring these characters to introduce them to as some kind of idea of making this series work, having fun and being able to experience life in Bikini Bottom and what it's like under the sea. That there's other people that exist underwater and there's different cities and different all types of people that they can be able to meet that are going to be friendly, especially Patrick and Sandy. I think they will really like Garfield and Odie. I think those are the #1 characters that they could definitely introduce and include in this kind of special crossover if it happens, if they go for it. Patrick and Sandy could definitely be involved in this for friends that I think SpongeBob would be more than welcome to really be able to introduce them to, and then including Gary as well for his pet. Now, just to close this out, how could this work as a video game? I had a lot of trouble with this in comparison to Jenny and Danny Phantom because it's going to be action packed. But this one is not as action packed as what I did with that crossover. How would this play as a game? Maybe some of you guys can chime in. So some mechanics just real quick. Maybe being able to switch between Garfield, Odie, and SpongeBob, and maybe his friends could be playable, just to be able to explore. It's not, some action. It could be some kind of adventure game to be able to, an open world exploration game where you could get into all types of stuff, character interactions, and more. Before SpongeBob helps Garfield and Odie get back home, they can definitely be able to get into these different activities and things like that and take on some Krabby Patties, So it's just cool stuff, things like that. Would this even fit for a video game? Because I'm thinking this will most likely be something for a TV special. And I'm surprised that Nickelodeon didn't even go for this yet and no one's talking about it. So that's what gave me the idea to try to make this make sense as best as possible. It could be Nicktoons Unite vibes with different characters being playable, but I just don't want to copy all that and keep on doing the same thing. Or it could be like Nicktoons Unite, or it could just be like Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. I wanted to make this sound different. Maybe this could be, instead of like those kind of games, it could possibly be a party game where SpongeBob and friends, and SpongeBob and Garfield, a SpongeBob and Garfield party game with mini games. This could be something that could possibly end up working as a party game or something as an open world video game for an open world aspect and more. And then other DLC can get involved with other worlds for them to be able to run into. Garfield could probably be a part of other worlds as well to be able to visit. But I don't want to keep on biting off that Nicktoons Unite vibe because we definitely need that game back. But this could be something that could definitely work, most likely as a TV series. I think would definitely work. But let me know what some of you guys are thinking about this. It's just like nobody's talking about some of this stuff. And I wanted to try to do a different crossover today to get you guys' reactions and thoughts, and what's your take on how this could work, and maybe eventually it could possibly go the other way where they could do a part 2 where SpongeBob can be able to maybe get up into the world of Garfield's house for Arbuckle, the Arbuckle house, and be able to get to know some of these characters. But SpongeBob he doesn't really visit the outside world or goes above surface like that often. It's not something that has popped up. It's something that hasn't really been happening for hasn't happened during the show, at least from what I watched. It hasn't happened. So I'm not sure what they could possibly do if SpongeBob was to go into Garfield's world. But I think this would make the most sense as Garfield and Odie getting stuck and trapped underwater. And I wanted to make this story flow. I gave Jon Arbuckle a minimum role, just a minor appearance, a quick short appearance, just being on the beach and things like that for a summer vacation. That's the only way I see them probably getting as close or coming close to Bikini Bottom, is being on the beach and going on this summer vacation so it flows. This is something I think I would love to see, and I definitely want to get into more of these crossovers and just mixing up different characters in different series from other shows, all different types of other worlds that could be a part of this, that can be able to have some of these characters run into each other for a what if scenario. This is I'll say it one more time. I think this is SpongeBob and Garfield has the closest and the highest chance of the highest probability of seeing something like this really come together as something realistic, as a real special and a real crossover, just like they did with Jimmy Neutron and Timmy Turner. They can do something with SpongeBob and Garfield. They don't have to worry about jumping over hoops. They can definitely be able to make this happen as a nice storyline to flow as a TV special. Even if it's a one-time for the one time, they had the Timmy Power Hour. It wasn't even just a one-time thing. It happened multiple times. It had a sequel. And then some. This is something that can be built up just to catch up, almost to in a similar light of how frequent they did the Timmy Power Hour, because it had more than one special. So they could do more than one special with SpongeBob and Garfield together as a crossover. So I think this would be something that I would definitely want to see, and something I hope that they'll see, and maybe something that they'll probably end up considering. Maybe some developers out there might want to do something like this for a video game, some kind of special short DLC, or a DLC or a story expansion or things like that they can do. You know what I mean? Just something like that they can do for some of these games. It's something different. It's so many great characters out there. This is just an example of what they can possibly end up doing. So it's just something that I want to see happen. I want them to do more with these characters that they have access to, and let these characters run into each other, and it'll bring more fans together, from whether you're a Garfield fan or you're more of a fan of SpongeBob, whatever side that you stay on, or whatever side that you're on or you stay on, it will bring interest to the special or the game itself if they bring out a title like this. But I definitely think this will work as a TV special more than a game over Ginny and Danny Phantom and things like that. I wanted to make this stand out and do something different. So it's not, it's just Jimmy Timmy Power Hour over again. This is something completely different and a whole different take with two different characters that I think will have them to make the most sense and have the best chance of seeing some kind of brand new crossover. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. The timestamp's going to be in the description. And if you guys want to check out my Ginny and Danny Phantom crossover with a scenario, that should be popping up right now in a matter of seconds. And if y'all want to check that out, I want to do more of these. I'm not sure which two characters I'm going to do or which two shows I want to do next. I definitely want to try to do something with Jimmy Neutron, maybe, with a different character. Maybe I could do something like that. But there's so many different options with all these great shows. Maybe with Rocket Power or just something like that. Just mixing things up. And even with some of these modern shows, rock, paper, scissors, things like that. I might try some of those other characters. But I know I want to do something next with Jimmy Neutron soon at some point. But let me know what y'all think. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I wanted to have it on display. Maybe y'all hear it on the PS5 in the background. But I just turned it down a little bit on the settings so it's not just too loud. So y'all can read through the storyline. Let me know what you would change, who you would add, and maybe some kind of different story scenario that you would want to do with these characters.